So I want to welcome my guests here for Proudly We Serve. You go ahead and introduce yourselves one by one, and we'll continue with the conversation. Starting with the good lady here.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Joan Keenan. I'm producer, director, whatever needs to be done for the videos. It was an accidental thing, so it just sort of came to be that that's my job, whatever needs to be done.
So modest.
It's a lot of work.
All right.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Virgin Islands. Good morning, Senator Doug Canton.
Morning.
I'm Brian O'Reilly. I'm retired military. I'm here supporting. I did most of the interviews. You won't see my face in the video, but you'll hear, I interviewed everyone, and what a tremendous opportunity it was.
All right. And on FaceTime, we've got.
Hi, everybody. If you can hear me.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is Jean Picou. I am my main job was the editor for the film, but I also help direct. And as Joan said, we all had jobs carrying equipment, cameras, miking, arranging furniture. So we all had jobs.
All right. Well, I'm so glad that I could get the three of you here today, and of course, the one face that I also miss in the room right now is Miss Roberta Knowles. If you could talk a little bit about her role and what she did.
Okay, Dr. Knowles was our writer. She's the one that came up with the script, did the research on it, came up with the script of what we were going to do for the voiceover. And that was her main role in it, and it was a crucial one, because without her setting the pace of what it was that was going on, we wouldn't have gotten it done. And not to neglect one other one, Steve, he's reminding me here. Stephen Richards was the voice you hear on another one that doesn't appear, but it's his voice that reads the voice over. So he was a crucial part of our team also.
All right, fantastic. So, Proudly We Serve is really a series. Could you just give a little bit of insight as to how this thing came together?
John, you want to say anything?
In the beginning was the video.
Right, John, see if you can explain it. I can never understand.
Miss Keenan was she had a video club at Charles H. Where they had a bunch of unused video equipment. So she decided to get a little club together, some kids, teach them about the equipment, learn herself, as she'll say. And from that point, it sort of developed into the Library of Congress was looking to collect stories from veterans, World War II veterans. So Ms. Keenan at the time figured, hey, these guys are about the same age. We need to start reporting them. So she decided to do that herself. That's about the time that we met and realized that, hey, we could get a grant and turn this into an actual project. So that's really the genesis. That's where it started. Simple interviews to get them on record, and then it kind of developed into an actual movie with research, and we brought in Roberta and so on.
Well, there's a parallel here I see to some other things, because we have drama clubs where they have no drama program, So once again, people in the community stepping up and bringing something into the schools that otherwise the schools haven't really provided for in that sense, and making a real opportunity that are teaching these children skills that you just never know on what major studio, what Virgin Islander is going to become the executive manager, director, or whatever the case may be, just based on exposure.
Yeah, and my thing was that not only they may or may not become interested in video, but they were learning how to be self-assured. They were learning that they could be in charge of things. They were learning that they had responsibilities and they could fulfill them. And I think that was a big part of it for me.
All right. So the first...
Right. All the students were assigned a role, exactly. They each were assigned a role for each project, each little project we did. So there was a director, there was a camera operator, there was somebody who wrote the questions, they did the interviews. So just to reiterate what Keenan said, they all had jobs, and that's really, they weren't really doing it to get into video production, but the skills that they got out of that club were great, I think.
All right, fantastic. So, the first one in the series was
Proudly we serve Virgin Islands veterans of World War II.
World War II.
Yes, and Richard Schroeder was an important person on that. He did the interviews for that one.
All right.
Okay, he was the interviewer.
And that was very timely in the sense that we have lost quite a bit of people who served in World War II.
Right.
So that was very, very important in terms of getting these folks memorialized in a way that we have the story to be told as part of not just history, but a cultural connection in the whole 9 yards. Because when you go to the Virgin Islands, go from the Virgin Islands to wherever into the military, you take the Virgin Islands with you in some way, shape, or form. All right.
Right, and they each got the copy of their own interview, the full interview for their families. So they, besides sending it to Library of Congress, their family has that history that they can go back and listen to.
Great. Now you mentioned the Library of Congress, and I just want to emphasize that. What is the role of the Library of Congress in all of this?
They had started several years ago, I just happen to have the Veterans History Project, and it was to record, basically to get the stories of veterans and to save them there, to have them for future generations. It's gone through several iterations. I'm not sure, what they still have. The project is still going. They used to be available online, then they weren't as available, and now I'm not sure. I have to check on them.
But they were an important vehicle in the whole process. Right?
Well, that's what got me started. Was I have to correct John? They were not the same age as me. I was born during World War II.
Yes, I knew I messed up.
You knew you slipped up, yeah. And that was why I decided to record their stories. So
right.
that was the impetus. Was basically just to preserve their stories. Was what got me started on this.
All right. Well, I commend what you've accomplished from several perspectives, because in our Virgin Islands community, there are various areas where we've been really challenged over the years at memorializing various aspects of the Virgin Islands. For instance, we have a lot of Virgin Islanders involved in sports, but the documentation to pass it on from generation to generation, we're more so limited to who happen to know the person or the family or whatever the case may be. Also, in the cultural environment, one of the challenges that I found sometimes is you have these people who are the culture bearers, and I don't like camera. Don't film me. And you have to work against that also. So every step of the way, it's great, because I know that you have to reach out to the veterans, and in some cases, some of them might have been camera shy.
Well, I think it wasn't just camera shy. With the Vietnam veterans, it was being unable to tell their story in public, not being able to share what they had gone through because they were so traumatized by what they had been through. So that even some who would tell me, yes, yeah, I'll do the interview. Here's my phone number. Call me. And then they would never answer the phone. They wouldn't return the messages. And I might see them. They said, I wanted to do it, but I can't. So Vietnam was the
many
one.
Many of the soldiers, we all know, I think you also served.
Yes.
You don't. It's not something that you glorify about your war experience. So you generally just don't want to share it. So many of the veterans tend to hold these stories that have never been told inside, and internalize these issues that they may be having. So many of them find it very difficult to express, or don't care to express their war experiences, which I could understand why.
Yeah, I can understand why.
So that becomes a challenge. As Keenan explained, many of them you'd call and reach out, and many of them, this was the first time even expressing their sentiments of going off to war, and it was quite emotional for many, especially in the Vietnam era video.
Yeah, a wide range of. Go ahead, John.
I just wanted to chime in real quick and say that bringing Brian on the team he was indispensable in that arena, because he would, at the time he was in the National Guard, he would show up in uniform. In fact, sometimes he even knew these guys or knew of them. His father knew them. Him showing up and being there made these men want to talk. lots of times, and that was just, like I said, an indispensable part of this process. Him being there and conducting the interview, speaking the language in some cases, it was a big help. It was a big help.
All right. Well, I got the opportunity to hear some of the stories that they told, and I just understand that you just could see on their faces sometimes the pain, and it might not have been even their pain, just it's somebody else's pain, but that was their brother that in arms, that was their brother on patrol, that was their brother coming in wounded, and you could see that it was definitely an emotional experience. So a little bit of the thought process in terms of how did you come to enter the video in this particular what's the word
Festival.
film festival. Have you had other experiences with film festivals? Tell us a little bit about this journey.
Well, World War II, we had entered in a couple, and we got a Bronze Telly Award for the World War II one. And then Vietnam, I entered, and there's Without a Box was one of the sites on, and now there's Film Freeway that lists the festivals around. And I look for a festival that seems like it would be fit our film, that veterans, African Americans, documentary, and that type of thing, and then submit them to a few of them and see what happens. It's you have to pay to submit them, but it's worth it just to see if you can get some recognition. And with this one, I was very happy to hear that the Oregon Documentary Film Festival accepted ours as one of the ones they would show. And then by the time Jean and I were able to go out to Portland, and by the time we got ready to go, we were in the top 5 for Best Picture. They showed 70 to 80 films that they had entered in it. And they were short documentaries. Some were very short, under 5 minutes and whatever. And they were all shown there. And then at the award ceremony, we found out very happily that we had won the Best Picture award for the film festival. So we were in a bit of a state of shock, right, John?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we were sitting at the table at the presentation, and the first 3 awards, I think, came from our table. So we thought, hey, wait, this is a pretty good table. Let's see what happens. Sure enough, it continued, and then we got our award, and somebody else got their award. So we really were at the winner's table, I think. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
All right. Well, very, very nice surprise in that sense. I mean, I know you want to advance notice so you could come in the tux and everything else. And...
It wasn't that type of film festival.
I know.
Yeah, we weren't up for the Academy Awards or whatever.
But the type that it was is one that recognizes veterans and recognizes the Virgin Islands and recognizes our talent. That's the best kind we can have.
That's right. And there were quite a few from different parts of the world too that had entered. So it wasn't just the United States. There were some from all over. And while we were out in Portland, I had hoped to show the videos at the American Legion post out there, and I had thought we had arrangements made, right, Jean? And
yes.
Unfortunately, when we got out to the post, somebody had not communicated to them, and there were just 5 people there, and they were just wrapping up a meeting. So we left them with copies anyway of the Virgin. I wanted to share with the American, since this is done for the American Legion, this would be sharing with another American Legion post.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. They have the
videos,
and that's they can show it and learn a little bit about Virgin Islands veterans, and in the process, the curiosity about the Virgin Islands. You just never know. And one thing I want to say about the American Legion, it doesn't matter where you go. They're there with open arms. They're there with open arms. I went to Ohio. They were there with open arms. Gave me a flag, the whole 9 yards in Hilliard, Ohio. Okay, so somebody just happened to be listening out there, Hilliard, Ohio. Okay, yes. So, but this is great, and I want to just continue to talk about it in the community because You know, if something negative happens about it, you hear about it for 6 weeks, 6 months. Something good happening, it's like, oh, mention here, and then like poof. So, folks, you'll hear me talk about it and remind you about it because it's our people, it's our veterans, it's our Virgin Islands, and I'm happy to have you here so we can
Thank
talk
you.
about it. Yeah. Okay. So we have the World War II, and after World War II, we did another one after that.
Well, yes, I had my arm twisted for that one by Harry Daniel, who was then director of Veterans Affairs, who said to me, "When are you going to do Vietnam?" And I politely told him, "I'm not touching Vietnam. It's a very controversial war. I mean, all war is controversial, but I was not going there." And I think it was a year and a half later, he caught me in a weak moment. And I was sure Jean was busy with his little girl and would not be able to do it, and I couldn't do it without him and Roberta. And I said, maybe. And you know, we should never say maybe, right? Because immediately Jean and Roberta wrote me back email and said, that sounds like a good idea. And so that's how that one was born.
Okay. And
Right. From my perspective, I and Joan told that story before. My perspective was, we did World War II. We could do even better on the next one. I know it was a controversial topic, but you know, I was going to be editing it. I knew there was different ways to shoot it. I knew there was going to be different questions we can ask. You know, I knew the next one could be better. So that's one of the reasons why I agree from a creative standpoint.
Oh yeah, well that's how it is. Every time you do one, you just see how many different things you're gonna do different the next time around to make it better. Okay, and the foray into the Korean War.
That was done as we were showing the Vietnam one. We were showing it here in Christiansted at the American Legion post, and the post commander came up to me and said, "It's very good work you've been doing, but you know, they call Korea the Forgotten War, and you skipped over it."
Great guilt trip. Great
Right.
guilt
So
trip.
I said, and then he wouldn't be interviewed. But anyway, but that got me going. I realized that, you know, there weren't that many of the Korean War veterans left. We had trouble finding them.
Okay, so that means that we have a total of three out there right now.
Right.
So, how can people get their hands on a copy of this great box office thriller that we have here about our veterans?
Well, I have copies at home. People can contact me, but the American Legion is supposed to be pushing it, and each post has a number of them that they can sell, and then they keep the proceeds. For the post. And I was hoping to hear from Commander David this morning with numbers of who I could have you call. I don't have them, but it's the post commanders at each post. Hillis Benjamin and St. Thomas. I'm not sure the man's name in post 85.
Well, follow up. I don't care if you have to make them an offer. They can't refuse. Follow up and get the information to me.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking about this.
Not everybody wants their phone number out on the air, so that's why I'm not saying who they are until I get official word.
That's okay. I'm just saying that you continue to hunt them down as necessary. Get whatever information, phone number, contact, P.O. box, whatever, because I want to continue talking about this because in too many instances, our history is lost. And as a result, our children and generations to come don't get the opportunity to have that appreciation. It was so easy in the Vietnam era to be so opinionated against the war, and it was taken out on the veterans of the war. And in so many ways, you had things that come out of the war, like homelessness, mental health issues, suicide issues. It's not just the recent wars. These are problems that post-traumatic stress, before it was recognized for what it was. A lot of these folks were told you're just trying to be a coward, you're not a real man, you're not a this or that, and all this guilt stuff that was put on these folks. And then with the homelessness, and I say this, I have the old style green military jacket. I love my green military jacket, okay? And but you know, I've walked across some places with my jacket on, and I see women clutch their bags and look at you and a type of thing, as though somehow or the other it was reflective of the homelessness or as they saw it, vagrancy or whatever, and not really addressing the real human aspect of what took place and how we as a community at that time really didn't rise to the occasion. We vilified
Right.
the Vietnam veteran, called them all kinds of things, baby killers, this, that, and the other. Now we have Agent Orange that was sprayed supposedly to kill off the jungle, to make it easier to navigate through the jungle. And we have all these people now suffering with health impacts from Agent Orange. It's a carcinogen. Okay? So we have a lot to be grateful for in terms of the freedoms that we have today at every level of military service. And it's something that, like I said, I'm going to continue to talk about because lest we forget. Can't let us forget. Okay? All right. So let me get off the soapbox with all that.
All right.
All right. Well, anyhow, it started in the school. It started in the school. That's the story as you
Well,
told it.
basically, it started after I retired from the school because I wasn't working with the kids anymore, and I
Right.
had the camera and this
No,
project. But yeah, it
reflecting
started.
back on that part of the genesis.
It started from one teacher who wrote a grant and got a video camera and did the project and then put it in the computer lab. And I was doing hands-on science and helping to construct the computer lab. And I couldn't stand to see that camera sitting there and not being used. A waste of technology. So I bought a book on video production because back in the day, you didn't go online and Google it.
Yep.
And that's how I got the team. And I told them they were professionals. That's one of my fond moments. John is probably tired of hearing this. Is we're going to St. Thomas to do a video shoot. We were doing traditional games of the Virgin Islands. And as we're preparing the group that's going over, I said, "No, I don't want you to act like you're 9 and 10 years old. You're professionals." And one of them said, "You want us to act like teenagers?" And I was like, "No, you're 20, 23, 24. But they did comport themselves in that way. They had a T-shirt, they were professionals, and they carried themselves in that way when they went off to the other island and all.
Yeah. Well, I mention that because the reality is there's always a challenge for resources, all the way down to or up to the teacher, the person who would be in charge of a program like that. And very often what we end up happening, as in your case and other cases, that a teacher steps up or a community volunteer steps up in partnership with that teacher, or however it works out, but somehow or the other, extra effort is made. And the results are always satisfying and have a lifelong impact.
Right, and there were teachers at the school that were my partners in this. It wasn't just me. Patrina Allen, Alex Newton.
You're calling names again.
And I don't be in trouble. But yeah, but all of them, they would stay after school, come in on Saturdays because we were doing this on our own time. It wasn't official.
Well, I want to emphasize that simply because it's, yes, you can write a grant and the grant can take care of but so much, but it truly is a labor of love when you look at the amount of time and energy that you put into it. And Brian, I want to say that having observed a couple of times, I think you did an excellent job in terms of the asking of the questions and your interaction with the various veterans. I think it made all the difference in the world, uniform and all. Okay, and
yeah, can I just tell you how I got Brian to do this? How that happened? He was in charge of the recruiting office, and I was looking for funding to support our video, and I thought maybe they were always putting up banners, maybe they had some funds or something I could get. And I went in and I met him. And when I left, I realized that man just interviewed me and found out my whole life story. And I told Jean, I said, I think we need to get this guy to do our interviews. And Jean's like, you only met him once.
I think it does. Throughout our community, there's so many fascinating stories to be told. And like you mentioned, the media, I just think, I don't know if Ms. Keenan wants to speak to it, but we're at another event that they had on St. Quentin with the first film festival.
That's right.
And that was what was interesting about that is that a lot of young people, technology is, you hear about vlog, and John could probably speak to the technology, but it's becoming commonplace where everyone can take a cell phone and pretty much write a story or tell a story. And there's so many fascinating people in the Virgin Islands. I mean, those who visit here, those who migrate here, those who have been here for years and years. I just find it very, very interesting to hear life stories of folks that we have in our community. I think it's fascinating to be here in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, well, we used to have Graffiti Street.
Okay.
Which one of the things that Graffiti Street did was to give that age group the opportunity to talk about things from their perspective. So I'm hoping in the not too distant future to kind of jumpstart something like that going on, because we don't get to hear from them very often. If there's something bad that happens involving them, we hear about that, but there's so much good that's going on. So I'm hoping that we can get that kick started and going. So I'll be tapping into your expertise.
I remember Graffiti Street when I moved to the island in 2003. It was on still, and I mean, obviously now it would be a little dated, but it would take, I think, like you said, some young people who have moved back or even still there to present that. I mean, go in with a plan and present that show to one of the stations. It could even be a radio show. I mean, that Graffiti Street was a TV show at the time, right? If I'm
That's correct.
Correctly. Yeah. So it could even be a radio show. You'd still get the same effect. Young people getting a microphone, being able to talk about what they want to talk about. I think that's a great idea to bring something like that back. Absolutely.
Well, I'm at it. I'm going to just say we have a studio and we have equipment, and all I need right now are some students. So if anybody is listening out there that's interested in partnering to get this started, hey, get in touch with Doug Canton and let's do it. Okay? The last thing you're going to have any lack of is students wanting to get involved. Your challenge is going to be that it's going to be like 50 of them, and you might have room for maybe 10 or 12 in the process. So if you're listening out there, you got someone that's interested in videography, script writing, in lighting, in sound, in just being a part of the solution, telling their story, get in touch with us, okay? Leave me a message at the station, get in touch with me. Otherwise, you probably know my mommy in Massachusetts, and she knows how to get in touch with you without a cell phone. Just like when I went down the street, if I didn't do something, didn't say good morning or good afternoon, it'll get back to me. But make sure we make the connection, because we need to make it happen. All right.
Okay. And just not to be remiss, we did take part in the UVI Film Festival, and we did win an award there also. It was a very small festival, but it was still, we got an award for Best Feature Film.
All right.
So
fantastic. That came together very, very well. I have to say it came together very, very well. And I hope that we're going to see more initiatives coming out of that.
Yeah, it just needs to develop more and get more people involved and behind it and all.
And there's an opportunity for us to jumpstart our own industry. Most of the laws that have been passed up to this point make it very attractive to folks to come with their resources to do stuff here. We have to get our resources together here and create our own pool of talent and vehicles for creativity. Because the bottom line is, you may not be the one with the story, you may be the one with the camera, but if you don't get together with the person with the story, it doesn't happen. And I say that, I remember ages ago, this young lady had a screenplay, and she wanted basically to send it away for somebody to buy it. And I was saying, let's do it here. Let's do it, because it never happened. It never went anywhere. And it's kind of like, I have these pots with plants in my yard, and sometimes I hang my head in shame. I look at that. How long you there? Just 5 years. Why put you in the ground after the first year. So it's a human thing.
Yeah.
It's a human thing, and you don't. It's just like the hoarders. It creeps up on you. You don't realize what's going on until it's like, wow, that plant been in that pot how long? So hopefully, in the process, we can get it out. So, congratulations on both the Oregon Documentary Film Festival and also here at the UVI Film Festival and the recognition that's going on there. And I hope that what you've accomplished will continue to serve as an inspiration to others. John, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in before we end it. If folks do want to get in touch with us, maybe to order a copy or copies of the film, or just to ask a question or anything, our Facebook page is, you can find us at Proudly We Serve on Facebook. And the website is pwsvi.org. And the emails go directly to Ms. Keenan or myself, and yeah, any questions, anything we can get. There's a donation button. The donation button will get you a copy also of the movie, or like I said, any questions.
All right. Fantastic.
We got to thank you, Doug, because you were our cameraman on a couple of these shoots.
A couple of times, yes. And it was a pleasure. And I tell you, it's one of those experiences, you know, you have things like Auntie Janet's, for instance, except that this was veterans telling their story, you know, and we have all these different perspectives of Virgin Islands and experiences and history. And I'm hoping that it's an inspiration for a lot of folks out there to, you know, it doesn't have to be about veterans. It can be about anything Virgin Islands and history and culture or whatever. Just do it. Just do it. Even if you do it with the cell phone or you do it with full-blown 8K cameras like this multi-million-dollar set that we had here to do Proudly We Serve. We wish. We wish.
And you know,
Yes.
like you said, you know, you look at the product. You know, I don't know if they could see the package here, but I mean, it's professionally done, and you know, like we were a part of it. We saw the equipment that was being used. It wasn't that complicated.
No,
it wasn't that technical. But the end result is that by the time you collaborate and you put everything together, you have a professional product that could be entered in a film festival, that could be sent off to the Library of Congress. And, you know, so I think it speaks volumes to what can be done in the Virgin Islands and with the resources we have here. Don't make the assumption that you have to have, like you said, those $1 million.
Exactly.
These very simple tools, and you could produce something professional.
Yes,
That's lasting.
and that's why I want to see more of this happen with these students, because they're learning skills.
Yes.
From Florida all the way to California to who knows international opportunities. They're learning skills. So, for instance, this thing I'm trying to kick off is they're going to learn about lighting. They're going to learn about sound. They're going to learn about video editing. You know, they're going to learn skills that they can take with them someplace and possibly use. I remember I was talking to this one student, and I said, you know, get into doing voiceovers. You never know. You're in college, you might get a gig at a radio station or a TV station or whatever doing stuff, and the extra money coming in is like, hey, for what? Just using your voice? It's great. So, yeah, we have a few projects we're working on that are going to come into WSTX, like, for instance, the community calendar. I plan to farm that out to the young folks. They know more about what's going on than me. And let them do it as a production. And hopefully we can get some sponsors to do that and get it going. And so they get something out of it in the process, you know. And these are the things you have to do to make sure that it lives on through them. That's how it's going to live on. If you do it in a way that you don't plan for that succession, then you lose it, right? Yeah. Well, I am just so glad that all the time that I have here today belong to you guys. I just want you to know that I don't
I know
I don't have you on.
Jean is still working these days, so he may not be able to.
Well,
yeah, we got two retired people there.
Right, that's retired people. I know Jean.
yeah.
The part of why it's so professionally done is because we have a professional graphic artist on our team there.
Right. Just want to make sure you weren't on rations, and for sure you weren't on C rations. Whew,
Okay. Yeah, no, this is
I
fine.
still have my P38, Brian. I'll never lose. It's just like
Ah,
a very
yes.
special keepsake. My dog tags, the whole 9 yards. All my experience as a veteran are things that I hold dear and close. Some really good life lessons in in Germany. That was my first encounter. See, a young man with his nice little fast BMW with the cameras at the intersections. That if you just a second too late, poop, and it goes back to your commander down in Nuremberg, and then it goes to the next commander, So by the time it reaches to your unit, everybody know that you ran the red light. There's some other stories I could tell, but
Right.
all comes with youth and just sometimes how it is. It's
Yeah.
just
Doug, speaking of our veterans in the Virgin Islands, one of the things that we always ask is what can we do for veterans, and are we doing enough? And you never can do enough. But one thing that I think that we Virgin Islanders in our community need to strengthen our shot group on is just showing appreciation for service. As we know in the States, you go anywhere, as long as you mention that you're a veteran, if you have on a hat, someone is going to approach you and just simply mention, thank you for your service. And I think that we need to do more of that here in the Virgin. We need more businesses here to offer assistance, whether it's a discount to veteran, just to show some appreciation. And I personally, and I've heard it from many other veterans, that a simple thank you for your service means the world to a veteran. And just would like to see more of our Virgin Islanders express those kind words to the veterans if they identify a veteran. You don't have to spend any money, just thank you for your service. It makes the world of a difference.
You just gave me a great idea. Okay, you just gave me a great idea. All right, any business out there that has special discounts or whatever for a veteran, hey, CantonVI@mac.com, and people gonna hear about you on WSTX. Okay, all right. Yeah, but that's how you do
That's
it.
how you do it.
That's how you
Get the
do
word
it.
out,
That's
right.
how you do it. Okay, so if your business, your friend is out there, and they run a business of some type, and you have special discounts, you'll get some complimentary mention here on WSTX. And I really want to thank the leadership here at WSTX, and in the same breath, thank the advertisers at WSTX, because it's through your patronage and the support of the ownership of WSTX that we're able to do the type of things like what we're doing here. A lot of other places, for you to sit down over there, you gotta fork out cash first, And I'm saying there's just too much in the community that needs to be talked about, because the news is going to carry everything that's bad, and very often, like I said, a brief mention of the things that are good. All right, so I hope you don't mind paparazzi following you around after coming on Doug's show, but all right, but it's been an ongoing pleasure, and Joan, keep on posting those beautiful pictures
My
of the
morning
beach.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, on Facebook. She can't hide. So if you need a copy, besides the website and Facebook page for them, you're going to see this Joan Keenan and this beautiful view of the Frederiksted waterfront, or whatever area where there's this beautiful, the horses, the guys walking the horses, exercising the horses, whatever. I mean, things that other places people submit their pictures somewhere and win a big award, but humble Joan, she's not going to do that. She'll just save it for probably research. All right.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
I love it. You made my day.
Oh, okay.
You made my day. Really,
Thanks for
really.
having us on.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
been
it.
my-
Thanks, Doug.
It's been my pleasure. And next one, not a war. You have to figure out some other aspect of veterans. Next one, don't let
I'm waiting for some young people to come and take over, you know? Done three.
Okay. Well, you know the other thing, of course, we had the Iraq War and what's going on in Afghanistan. So maybe something that collaboratively bridges the two, a discussion of folks who served and their experiences, throwing out some ideas. I don't want you to get too sedentary on us here now, okay?
I've heard people throwing those ideas at me before. I've been hit by them.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
But as you said, it's also time for us to position other people to step up. Okay? We are telling our story, and we can get fidelity from us telling our story. We can be assured that the true spirit, the flavor, the culture, the seasoning, everything gonna come out in that final product if we tell our story as only we can.
Right.
All right. Okay, well, thank
Well
you
said.
again. And Jean, I'm glad you could make it through. All right. And
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
when last you been by this side, man?
Geez, a few months ago, was it, Joan?
Yeah,
A few months ago, I feel
You mean you sneak in here and didn't say hello? Okay, good
It
for
was
nothing
fast.
to you.
You know what I'm going to do next time? All I have to do is go to the post office in Gallows Bay and just stand there, and I'll see everybody.
Okay.
Everybody I need to see.
All
But I'll
right.
be back down there in a couple of months.
All right. Fantastic. Well, you be safe,
Okay.
and when you're ever moving back and
Thank you.
forth, safe travels. Okay. All right. Thank you again.
Joan, Brian,
Yeah.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, take care, John.
All right,
All right.
folks.
Love you guys. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Straight out of WSTX, folks.